Hi, it's Rick Vandenberg for Turf Bugs and Rock and Roll. And over the last 40 or so years, I've made a number of recommendations, suggestions, given out advice or whatever, that possibly one or two times didn't turn out exactly as people expected. And one of the things when people ask me, have you tested this pesticide, have you tested that pesticide? And there's a good likelihood that in our program we have tested it, just like all turf entomologists and pathologists and weed scientists do. We test these products, but the reality is we don't really know how well some of these products are truly going to perform until they get out in the real world, until people like you are using them to manage the pest problems that you have. And it's sort of like what we call where the rubber meets the road. And we see sometimes then we really learn about these products, we learn what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. And just this past couple of weeks, I've seen some things that indicate that we're learning some about certain products. And one is the use of a product called Acelepryn for fall armyworm control mostly in hybrid Bermuda grass, but in seashore paspalum and cool season turf, whatever, fall armyworms can be a very, very serious problem. And Acelepryn is a product that works well against them, and it gives us a good long residual activity. So in some cases, people have used this to manage the perimeters of their properties. And this has always worked well, and we're able to do this because we understand a little bit about the pest biology that we can use to effectively manage them in a unique way. So fall armyworm moths have this unique characteristic that they lay their eggs on objects or things, such as on the side of this shed, perhaps on the bark of the crepe myrtle tree, or maybe even on this magnolia tree. And they lay their eggs in those areas outside of the turf grass area often. And then when the eggs hatch, the caterpillars move in or march in, as an armyworm would do, into the turf area. And that's a very consistent pattern that we see when we think about fall armyworms and the moths, where they lay the eggs and the movement of the armyworms in from the edge. And it's knowledge of things like this that can really help us because we can use that to our advantage in trying to manage them efficiently and effectively. So what's happened over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten a number of reports of people who have used products such as Acelepryn and even in some cases some other products, and they've still had fall armyworm outbreaks. So they're asking me what happened. Does the philosophy of using it to surround your property not work anymore? Is there resistance? Is the product not working properly? What's going on? Because we've used this product for several years and it's always helped us avoid fall armyworm outbreaks, and now all of a sudden we're seeing fall armyworm damage inside of the area that we treated on the perimeter. And here are a few photographs from one golf course in eastern North Carolina. And unfortunately, I've not had a chance to get down there and personally take a look at this. But it's a situation where, as the superintendent has done for several years now, the perimeter of the fairways are treated, and the fall armyworms never make it through that treated area onto the fairways. But here this year, we see a number of locations where serious fall armyworm damage has taken place. We know the fall armyworms come from the edge. How did they get in the middle through the chemical barrier that was established? Well, I don't know for sure how this has happened. One possibility, since some of these areas have a little bit of slope to them, is that there were some heavy rains and a lot of the caterpillars were simply washed or moved through that treated area into an untreated area because they're acquiring this product through feeding, and if they're just simply moved over that area, they're not going to be controlled. So I guess the bottom line is, we know the product still works. If you look at the green area on the edges, you can see it is still bright green, which means it was protected from fall armyworm feeding. How they got through, there are a number of possible explanations. I'm going to go with the heavy thunderstorm and the heavy rain that washed them through. But these products aren't perfect. Under unusual environmental situations or circumstances, sometimes you're not going to get what you think you ought to get out of them. Doesn't mean the product's not good, doesn't mean you didn't use it properly, and in fact, it doesn't even mean that Rick Vandenberg doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just sometimes we get breakthroughs, sometimes it's not a perfect world, and you just have to understand that, try to make adjustments, and next year hope things are a little bit better. Anyway, for those of you who've seen some breakthroughs with fall armyworms, it's a tough pest, it's harder to kill, they can get moved around in ways other than just crawling. Maybe that's what we've seen some of this year. Hope that helps, look forward to talking with you again soon.